Hey everyone, another Wednesday, another midweek update. As you can probably tell by the title, I'm actually really excited about this one. Although not a whole lot of raw progress got done, I was able to finally come up with a plan for the area of the level I've had the hardest amount of time actually planning out. So what's so exciting about that? Well, I actually have a general idea of what I want to do with every other location in the level, every other section of it. This one small section of mountain, however, I was completely clueless on until I had a small brainstorming session with some viewers on my Twitch stream. Though I haven't done exactly what we talked about then, it still managed to completely kickstart my thought process and let me come up with a much cooler, newer solution, or more importantly, a solution period. So major thanks to everyone involved with that. Enough blabbering though. Let me show off the section for real. When Catboy climbs up the vine, he quickly learns that the frightening foliage has been causing issues even for its own creators. A bright red vine, painful to the touch, runs along the parapets of the mountain base, and a strange green ooze has coated this section of it. After gaining an insight on the situation from a disillusioned shamrock swordsman, Catboy makes a precarious trek across the dissolving shamrock supplies and manages to make it to the safe ground on the other side. Discussing things in a more game mechanic-oriented sense, this area involved laying down a lot of groundwork for future material. These red vines, for instance. These obstacles are the first example of environmental, physical structures that can damage Catboy. Now that I figured out how to implement these well, it's going to be a complete breeze to add similar hazards in the future. Additionally, there are several cool things about the ooze. First and foremost, it's actually the first time I've gotten to implement the terrain modifiers I talked about way back in Progress Update 3. I actually had to redo some parts of the system. In addition to having some, interesting glitches when I first re-implemented it, I also discovered that the old system was incompatible with a certain effect I wanted to add. Observant viewers may have noticed this effect. A condition system. Currently, the game has the groundwork for two conditions: acidity and poison. Acidity is actually pretty much fully implemented. As you can see here, it builds up when Catboy stands on the ooze. When it reaches its maximum value, it deals half a heart of damage to Catboy, and then resets back to 0. Due to the way the mechanic works, I can also easily create sources of burst acidity. For example, some sort of animal that fires balls could quickly build up acidity along with its normal attacks. Poison, on the other hand, is currently unimplemented, though I do have the raw groundwork for tracking the condition itself. My plan is for poison to drain Catboy's effective health during its duration, but then when the duration runs out, it'll heal him for all of the damage it dealt. I'm not sure if that really makes sense, but when I actually implement it, I'll be able to show it off and, actually explain it better, so more on that soon. As for why I needed to redo the terrain system to make room for these, the basic reason is that previously, the terrain system used colliders. If Catboy was in a collider in the sort of muddy terrain zone, or I guess in this case poison terrain zone, and he was grounded, the terrain effect would apply itself. Where this kind of falls apart is when Catboy stands on an object but is still in the collider even though he's not on the muddy surface itself, for example when he's on the crates. Though it's not the only solution, I decided the easiest and most efficient way to do this would be to simply reuse the raycast I talked about back in Midweek Update 1, and also check the terrain it hits for terrain modification effects. Clearly, it works like a charm, and with very little performance impact to boot. Lastly, I figured out how to make certain elements of the new shader system work on different UV sets. For those who are confused about what this means, the basic layman's terms of it is that I now know how to give certain terrain elements and parts of the terrain fancy edges and masking, like the edge of the green goo that you can see here. I'll also be able to use this to apply finely tuned texture detailing to other terrains and texture blending and stuff. We'll see what I'll actually end up doing with it when the time comes. Finally, like most of you probably noticed at the beginning of this video, I've started work on the costume system. I needed to make the cosmetics in a separate file due to the sheer import time of Catboy's current model, but this was actually a surprisingly tricky thing to find a solution to. Actually merging the cosmetics with Catboy's model in-engine proved to be a fairly finicky task. For whatever reason, Unity doesn't let you do it in editor yourself, so you have to use a special utility file with only a single line of code. But still, you have to actually figure out how to put it in and find it and stuff. And then you have to rearrange the hierarchy and change some actual settings in editor, but Point is, I did all of that, and I was able to figure out how to get it to work. For now, this backpack's the only cosmetic I'll be sneak previewing. Expect more of them when I fully implement costume coins, however. So, I think that just about does it for this week's midweek update. A little shorter than the other ones, but, you know, that's to be expected. Now that I've gotten past this hellish designer's block, though, I have high hopes for my progress next week. The number one priority for me is finishing this exterior, and unlike the past few weeks, I'm actually really confident I'll be able to get it done. Here's hoping I'm actually right. As always, you can find more links related to development down in the description below. And of course, if you want to stay up to date with the game's progress, hit that subscribe button to see the weekly updates as soon as you can. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you guys next week.